Get ready to get sticky. Sticky Situations is sponsored by Corona Crush. Corona Crush is creating Jewish couples always. Join the Facebook group. Just search Corona Crush and look out for virtual speed dating events happening every other week. They're 100% free and 100% Jewish. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Sticky Situations. I'm your host, Rachel, which all of you already know because I'm unforgettable. Everyone, please go like, follow, rate, review. I don't know what platform you're listening on, but whatever platform you are, go do whatever it enables you to. Go find another platform and follow it on. Whatever, you know the drill. And if you have a comment, only say something nice. If you have something mean to say, you can definitely DM me. I might not read it. I might. We'll see. But just don't post it in the public. On that note, posting in the public, everyone also go like Sticky Situations page on Facebook. Follow Sticky Situations Pod on Instagram. Follow Sticky Situations Pod on TikTok. And if you would like to be a guest on the podcast, you can either send me a DM on Instagram or you can see my post in Corona Crush. I have an application all ready for you to fill out. Go fill that out. Oh, and if you're not part of Corona Crush, go join that too. If you'd like to date me or any of my single guests, you can also send me a DM. I have some applications for those as well. You can find them on the Instagram page and the Facebook page. It takes a little bit of digging, so if you don't want to do that, you can send me a DM. Again, Sticky Situations Pod on Instagram, or you can send me an email at stickysituationspod@gmail.com. So today we have an extra special guest. Everybody, we're just going to jump right into it. So everyone, please welcome to the podcast my friend Blair. Blair, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Rachel. I've got to say, I've always wanted to be an extra special guest. I was wondering, if I'd be the first person in your history not to be an extra special guest.
There have already been people who are not.
Oh, you've already had not extra special. I guess I'm not caught up. I think I might know. There might have been one, but I'm sure he was extra special. But I'm so glad to continue the streak, start a new streak. It's fantastic news. So thank you.
All of my guests are extra special, unless I really don't like you. But then I probably wouldn't invite you to be on my podcast. But so that's just another plug to come be a guest on my podcast, everybody. But yeah. Okay, so Blair, before we get into it, let's go through some basics. Let Sticky Situation Nation know. Can you tell my listeners your age, location, relationship status, and religious denomination?
Yeah, 29. I live in New York City. Relationship status is single. Religious denomination is modern Orthodox, maybe middle of the road to lenient, somewhere within that range. Yeah,
modern Orthodoxy is a whole spectrum in and of itself. Yeah. You guys have heard us talk about it. And another plug to be a guest on the podcast, if you are some denomination that is not modern Orthodox, I would love to have you and hear your perspective. So that's going to be my last plug for coming on the podcast. / that's going to be my last plug that I say is going to be my last plug, but it maybe won't be. But anyway, so Blair, I know he's sitting here with a laptop full of notes. So let's get into this.
Okay, I hope this isn't the first person to respect your podcast enough to come with a laptop with the.
I think you're the first person to come with a laptop. I've had people come with phones.
Okay.
I've had people come with written note. Well, mostly on phones. I think you're the first laptop.
Fantastic. Hopefully, starting a tradition.
Yeah. Everyone, professional guests.
Yeah, look, I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller. Always wanted to say that. Big fan of your podcast.
Thank you.
So, and I've actually got some great news for you, Rachel.
Yes.
On a lot of your podcasts, you frequently mention how you want guys to come on to share guys' perspectives.
Yeah.
And I feel like you've had guys come on, with the exception of definitely one, that haven't maybe shared so much guys' perspectives. I think I'll at least have some unique perspectives. Maybe I'll have more measured guys' perspectives than one particular guest I'm thinking of, which you had. So I feel like this is this exciting day for you. I'm not going to be that yeshivish person, which I hope you get on because that sounds fascinating. But, well, I think we're going to have some good debate. Maybe you'll just agree with everything I say, but maybe we'll have debate. We'll see.
Yeah, we were actually talking at shul, And that's how I got Blair to, like, decide to come on the podcast, because he's like, yeah, I feel like a lot of times you just get a girl on and you just bash men. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. He's like, I want to come on and defend men, but not in a way that's, like, bad. It's like, let's hear their side.
So I think I'll at least defend some men. I feel like after this podcast, there will be some men who want to walk over. Exactly. There'll be some men who want to walk over and hug me after this podcast. There will be some men who want to punch me across the face. So we'll work it out. Okay. So I'm sure you want to hear some stories, because I know this is a stories podcast, so I definitely prepared stories to the best of my ability. Okay, I've got one to start. I really hope at least this is a wild story. If you tell me like this is something you hear frequently, then that's going to be an issue. Okay, so not too long ago, a girl likes me on Hinge. Right, Hinge, popular dating app. A week later, I'm free and decide to like her back. And on Hinge, I'll say it's hard to usually tell someone's like religious status. It's probably its biggest downside. There's like a very wide range within like Jewish religious status you could get, but you know what, I see the pictures and she actually looks like, just based off the pictures, she's probably like similarly modern Orthodox, kind of middle of the road to me. So I kind of like that, at least. That helps. And I can also I also see that she's located in some random city I've never heard of, so I started the conversation. I'm like, so such and such city. That's a new one. And her first message back to me, which is actually kind of quick, she responds pretty quickly. Her first message back is, yeah, I'm out in the middle of nowhere. Next message back, and I 6 months pregnant.
What? Okay, yeah, I've never heard that one.
Thank God. Oh, thank God. Okay.
That's so interesting.
It's a wild one, right?
Yes, what'd you say? Like, what happened? You just ghost her?
No, I don't have ghosting in me. I said,
I probably would
have. Maybe. Well, look, I think she probably technically ghosted me. I don't know. Because I said, so after that, I said, okay, you know what? I wish you the best, but I don't feel it's right for me to be dating someone with a kid. Or someone who will soon have a kid. The second part of which I never thought I'd say to somebody in context of dating. Either have a kid or soon have a kid. If you have a kid, like, definitely, of course you should be dating. But I think some people will be the right fit for you, some people not. And if you have or will soon have, I'm just not the right person for you. And then I think she deleted the match right after, which, that's okay.
I have to say, though, at least she was upfront about it. Like, she told you right away.
She did tell me right away. After she acknowledged the location of her city, she told me right away, which, yeah, I appreciate. It would be better than if we talked for a while. I mean, we got to video chatting at one point. That would have been more annoying, so at least she told me right away. But I guess my question back, and to be fair, I liked her a week later, so maybe she was closer to 5.5 months pregnant by the time she liked me. And, you know, like, I was kind of thinking, so how exactly is this supposed to work? Maybe a nice romantic first date will be in the delivery room. Right? So it's gonna, you know, it's like, what's the plan here? But I don't know. It's an interesting situation. I mean, do you think it would be any different if someone was, I don't know, maybe 3 months pregnant or like in their first trimester or something? Like, do you think somebody pregnant should be dating under any circumstance? Like in any circumstance? I don't know. It's a tough one.
It's tough. I mean, having never experienced pregnancy, and hopefully when I do, I will have a partner that I am married to and not be in the dating world anymore. I don't know, because I do see people on TikTok, like, oh yeah, they go on a date, they're pregnant. Like, people have horror stories about, like, what happened to them. Like, people get pregnant by accident, like, by somebody who, like, is not going to be in their life. And I think they're still entitled to want to find love.
Yeah.
Or, like, they find out, like, terrible information about the person who got them pregnant. And, like, or maybe she's pregnant and not keeping the baby. Like...
Well, that's your 6 months.
No, not getting an abortion, but like...
Right. Like, gonna give it up for adoption.
Yeah, gonna give it up for adoption. Maybe she's a surrogate, like... I mean, I think she would have said, like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm a surrogate, but...
you like, think, right?
Maybe that's, like, a little bit different of a situation. I think it really depends on the scenario, but I think if a woman, I don't know. I feel like I got very conflicting opinions about this.
It's a really tough one. Look, definitely not judging them. So let's just assume one of the several scenarios you laid out that it's, just a really tough situation they're in, and then what? Their life is going to have to be on hold for another, however many months until they give birth, and then however many months after they give birth when they're the baby really, really, really needs attention. Right? That's a long time. I feel for them, but on the other perspective, sometimes people just aren't in the right situation to date, and maybe it's unfortunate. But I don't know,
I'm like trying to put myself in her shoes, and I'm like, if I accidentally got pregnant, and I don't think I would date. I think like at that point, my focus would be on figuring out how to make my life suitable to bring a child into this world.
Very interested. Yeah, I'd be interested to hear more guys' perspectives on this. I think outside of my brother, you're the first person I've told this tale to for whatever reason. I'm sure I must have told it to other people. I'm sure I must have. You're one of the first people. So I guess I'd be interested to hear hear this perspective.
Yeah, I'd love to hear a guy's perspective. Like, would you date a girl who's pregnant? Like, I mean, like, I could say it from the perspective of, like, I've had guys like me on apps who have kids.
Yeah.
And, like, it's a little bit different because, like, these guys come from the modern Orthodox world or more than modern Orthodox, and, like, they've been married before and have a kid from a previous marriage. But, I don't know. At this time in my life, I'm not ready to be a parent to a child that I did not have or adopt, I think.
That makes a lot of sense to me. And I would say the same. I'm not the right fit for them.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one isn't a story per se, but as long as we're talking Hinge, there was this profile I once saw, which for Hinge, when I say this blew me away, you're going to appreciate that saying something. People who have seen Hinge profiles. So I had to bring this one up. So basically, it said in their profile, so there was some prompts. It says, something that's not negotiable for me is you cannot be a Republican. Next prompt, you should not go out with me if you're a Republican. Then I scroll back up. I'm just so curious. And of course, it's got what does she say her politics are? She says her politics are, this is amazing. She says her politics are, I'm a moderate. It's like that is. I consider myself moderate. I would say anybody who like says like I won't date a Republican or I won't date a Democrat, they're probably too extreme for me, and politics is probably too much of a consuming part of their lives. I just found that part delightful. So delightful, I was ready to profess my love to her. But it also said, which is just not for me, not my taste, she also said she's gender non-conforming and asexual, which was just unfortunate that we had that one deal breaker right there before I could...
just the one deal breaker.
Yeah. Look, it's certainly not my place to judge, but it's just not for me. So, but yeah, I just thought that was a delightful profile, like even for Hinge's standards. You'll see some doozies on there.
Oh, yeah. No, I see crazy profiles all the time. I was talking to, like, some other people about just, like, coming on and sharing crazy Hinge profiles, so maybe... Sticky Situation Nation, stay posted. Maybe that'll be an episode at some point in the future. I have a whole album on my phone full of screenshots of like guys' profiles. I mean, I'm sure there are crazy girl ones out there too. I made a crazy girl prompt because I thought it was funny, but nobody's like responded to it. I only did it like a week ago. The prompt was the first round is on me. I actually saw this on TikTok, so I'm not taking credit for it. So the prompt was, the first round is on me if, and I just put, the first round is never on me, chivalry isn't dead. And I thought it would get some, like, funny comments, because I did it to be funny. Although, like, best believe on a date, I'm not buying the first round or any round.
Got that.
On a first date. But yeah, so, but I guess not. Oh, well, I'm going to change it to something else. I just haven't had time.
Yeah, look, that's interesting. You know, sometimes I'll do that also. I'll like play around with like a prompt for a few weeks, see if it gets any bites. Then if not, I'll be like, okay, all right, fine, move on to the next one. And the truth is that in terms of your comment about crazy guy profiles versus crazy girl profiles, there probably are more crazy guy profiles out there. And also, like for me, I actually pretty infrequently like swipe on Hinge, like I'll see if somebody's liked me, or I'll see like, you know, they're most compatible or whatever it is. So for whatever reason, I was swiping. like when I first got, I swiped a lot because I was curious, but for whatever reason, I was swiping one day, and I learned my lesson. I clearly have policies for a reason.
Sometimes it's fun to swipe through.
Yeah, it is fun. Yeah, if I'm bored or if I'm doing something which requires like a quarter of my attention, where I'm like, where's my other 75% going to go? Like, that's a great option.
Although I have to say, I think I've gotten weirder profiles in my likes than I have from swiping. Like, the guys I swipe through are usually pretty normal. The guys who like me, on the other hand, don't get me wrong, I have gotten tons of, like, normal guys who like me, and, like, I've had relationships from Hinge, I've definitely had good dates from Hinge, but this is, like, probably within the last, like, few months, I only get really, really weird people. So, I'm like, yeah, okay, this is what Hinge is sending my way.
Look, Hinge is giving you a sign. If you ignore it, that's on you. Definitely. Okay. All right. So this one isn't necessarily a funny story. Maybe we'll have some funny-ish elements in it, but it definitely leads to an interesting question. I have discussed with other people before, and I get all sorts of answers. And I think I know you're probably going to have some interesting answers. So here's the story. Basically, I'm dating a girl long distance. I'm in New York. She's in Toronto. And we've been dating for like 4 months, I'd say, at this point. And I make a trip out to Toronto for Labor Day weekend. And for anybody who knows accounting, which I didn't say up front, but I'm an accountant. More on that later. But I work in accounting, I should say. I don't know if I'm a prototypical accountant. I do more consulting work, but I work in accounting. So let me tell you that Labor Day, you actually won't have a busier time of year. March, April, it gets some of the hype. Labor Day, nothing busier, but still, I'm just that great. And I decide to make a trip out to her for the Labor Day weekend when I'm off Sunday and Monday at least. And I'll just take a super early morning flight back to New York so that I could get back in time for work the next day. This is pre-COVID days, so working remotely is like not a thing, so I want to get back to the office as close to 9 o'clock as possible. So basically, we have a nice Sunday, hang out late into the night, and we have a lot planned for Monday. So I go to where I'm staying at like midnight, and she's going to pick me up at like 9 a.m. the next day, Monday morning. So it's not too long of a break. Monday morning, before we do anything, she's like, we take a walk to a nearby park. And sure enough, she decides to end it. So, in addition to the shock, one of my first thoughts, maybe just about my first thought, is what the heck am I going to do for the next 24 hours until my flight? This is like smack in the middle of the trip, right? And also just something super awkward. I mean, this wasn't funny for me, but I'm sure people will find humor in this situation. Is this, like, for this trip, I felt comfortable enough to, instead of staying at a hotel, because I generally like my privacy. So instead of staying at a hotel, I decided to stay with my brother's in-laws who lived in the area. So I walked out of there, and not too long after, I walked right back in. And they're like older people. They're just, they're not at work. They're just kind of like sitting there. And it's like, hey, I'm back. But look, it was a while ago. It definitely for the best. I'm over it. But it begs an interesting question, which is that if you were in a similar situation, like let's say somebody had come in from out of town to date you, and mid-trip, you knew it just was not going to happen, would you tell the guy at that point in time that it's not happening? Or would you just, wait till the end? Like, what's the worst that could happen for another day, whatever it is? You clearly have that day potentially free. So what's the worst that could happen for another date? I know, people, you don't want to waste the guy's time. You don't want to waste your own time. So I think it's an interesting situation.
It's definitely an interesting situation. I've never actually been in this situation. I almost had a guy come in to go on a date with me. All of you have heard that story. He didn't end up coming. Yeah, you can go back and listen to my previous episodes to hear about that one. So, but that situation was different because I don't remember if he was coming to New York for something else or if he was coming just to go out with me. But he definitely made it clear that he had he had friends in the area. He wasn't but it was good because it took a lot of the pressure off of the trip, because it was okay, he's coming in for the weekend. We have plans for Sunday. Which didn't end up happening. But I think but I have had friends who have traveled to see people and knew. I think for me, what I would do, this is hard because I'm not really good at keeping my feelings to myself, because like the second I feel something, I gotta say it. Like if I want to end something, I need to end it right then and there, because I just like can't. But at the same time, if it's only like one day, maybe I would just be like, okay, let's do our activities, and then maybe like end it that night. Or just like wait till I go home, or wait till he goes home and then have a call and end it.
I feel like that would just be, it would also be like a kind of like an easy like route out. What's the worst that could happen in a day, and then do it over, FaceTime or Zoom or whatever.
Yeah, it's not like you're spending another week with them.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, he has a flight in the morning.
The next morning.
Why don't we, and like if you had fun stuff planned throughout the day, unless you literally hate the person, like.
So weird.
Or for me, like, if the guy was actually just so weird and I could not spend that time with him, which I would hopefully know after 3-4 months of virtual dating.
Well, we had met up in person, several times also, right? I had made the trip out to Toronto or out to New York, whatever. So this isn't like our first time in person. That's like, something's gone horribly wrong in person.
No.
It was just, I guess, kind of peculiar. I was a bit younger and the girl was even younger. So, maybe it was, just an earlier experience with dating, and she came to just a realization. I don't know. Definitely not losing sleep over it. But I think it's an interesting distinction. Like if it's somebody's first trip in seeing you in person, or somebody's severalth trip seeing you in person. There might be a distinction. I don't know. It's a tough one. It's also a tough one if they have other connections to the area. It's also a distinction if they have connections to the area. I had no connections to that area, so I was like, "What am I going to do?
Like, what are you
I'm going to do the plans I made for the next 24 hours by myself." So, not quite. So interesting. Different situation if the person has other things to do in the area. I don't know. I think most people I talked to said that they would probably do similar. Definitely if it was a first time they were meeting, and if it was even if there was another day left in the person's trip, they would say, okay, I don't see it happening, especially if the person has ties to the area. They have other things they could potentially do.
Yeah, I don't know, if I was in a situation where a guy came to see me for the weekend and he had friends in the area, then maybe, yeah. If he had other things he could do. But again, unless I hated him, or really, really just could not be, if he did something that I was just I can't be around you anymore, which I'm assuming just knowing you from around you wouldn't do. At least I would hope.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Then I could see it. If not, then it's just okay, just suck it up. And maybe even have that conversation that night. On your last activity of the night, it's yeah, it sucks. Maybe if you could wait until, if you think it warrants an in-person conversation, do it. But if not, just wait, have a FaceTime when they get back, and then do it.
Yeah, it was an interesting situation. Always makes for interesting conversation. A friend of mine at the time said she wants to flush that girl down the toilet, which was actually very touching. I was very touched. It's such a strong response. I was just whatever, it's fine. Fortunately, I make decent enough money, or good enough money, so I was able to do what I need to do to get a flight back as soon as possible that day and get out of that city, get out of that country. So yeah, fortunately, it was a no-brainer to me to spend the money to get a flight out of that country.
Get the heck out.
It was warned about Canada, and no, it's actually I like people from Canada as a general statement. I feel like they're great people. So I don't think I've been back since. Yeah, I think she's fine. Maybe just maybe a slight error in judgment. But that's okay. People make errors.
Yeah, hopefully she learned from her mistakes.
Hopefully, if you even think it's a mistake. To do it in that manner. Okay, so I recently had this one happen. It's an interesting one, sort of. I guess I was on JSwipe. I matched with a girl. We're talking for a while. Frankly, my policy with apps is that I really won't go out in person before we do a video chat. From my perspective, just because I've been just burned so many times by someone who's just not compatible. From a girl's perspective, I would think for safety reasons, you should actually make sure it's a real human being behind there, and significantly lessen the chances that it's some sort of nefarious kidnapping type or plot or something like that. There's some, what I've heard, scary people out there. So, but regardless, it's my policy to do a video chat first.
I try to also, or at least a phone call.
A phone call would definitely go a long way. So
I'll do a regular phone call if I have like mutual friends with the person. Like, if I can look them up on Facebook and I have mutual friends with them, I have a mutual friend rule. I probably said this before. Like, if I have mutual friends with the person and somebody can hold them accountable for murdering me, then I feel much safer.
That's right. It's like, okay, if I get murdered, tough break, not ideal, but I just want to make sure they're held accountable.
Yeah.
People
to answer to.
Absolutely. That's a fair policy. Yeah, I think once you verify the legitimacy of the human being, which oftentimes you can, then, I think a phone call would definitely suffice. I don't know. It's just a policy of mine. But regardless, so basically, I said, so it's a very busy time of year for me. So I said, and it'll just be a quick, call, just get to know each other a little bit. So I asked if by any chance Saturday night she might have some time to pop on a chat. She says something to the effect of probably, but let's confirm Saturday night. I think it was something like that. So I said, sure, sounds good. So very shortly after Shabbos, I message her and I'm like, okay, let me know if tonight's going to be good. At about 9:30, so that's about 3 hours later, she messages me back that it's not going to be a good night for such and such reason. Can we figure out a different day? Look, it happens to be I had some work to take care of anyway, so it's not like I was sitting around and maybe potentially would have done something else. But for all she knows, like, I could have potentially been holding my night to hear from her, and then she messaged me at 9:30 at night. I really wasn't upset. It takes a lot to get me upset, and that's certainly not going to do it. But I don't know. Do you think that's something which would have made you upset?
That makes me really mad.
Yeah.
When a guy says that he's going to contact me and he doesn't, well, okay, I think now that I just, like, I'm over it and guys are the worst and I just, like, realize that, I don't hold my night anymore. If a guy says, like, oh, yeah, maybe we'll talk this time, if I don't hear from him before that, I'm not holding my night. Like, if some other plans come up and then he texts me, I'll be like, oh, sorry, like, I got other plans. Like, especially for something like that where it's like, oh, do you want to have a FaceTime? Do you want to have a video call? I also think, like, my nights are so, like, I have to go with the flow. Like, sometimes I end up working late. Sometimes I end up, like, just with random plans. So, like, my weeknights are very much like, okay, I'll let you know if I could do it. Or, like, let's be in touch that day. Unless it's, like, a Sunday night. If it's a Sunday night and he does that to me and I have held that night, I'm going to be annoyed. And I guess you said this was a Saturday night.
It was a Saturday night, but I had stuff to take care of. I guess if I want to if somebody, for whatever reason, is very late or they have to cancel something the last minute and I don't want them to feel so bad, I'll tell them something which is the truth, which is that I literally always have tons of work to do, so you can never get me in a situation where I'm just sitting around twiddling my thumbs thinking, man, what I could have done with my night. Because in addition to accounting, for a while I held a volunteer role with a not-for-profit, so between the two of those I always had plenty of stuff to do. And I really did have work to do, so that particular night. But I guess, like, when she first responded, like, it was a bit of a fleeting, like, what if I had held my night? I probably would have been a little ticked off.
Well, did you text her?
Yeah, I messaged her on Jay shortly after Shabbos.
Oh, and she didn't get back to you?
So about 6:30. And then 9:30 she responded.
For me, yeah, if I would have messaged, if I would have messaged a guy right after Shabbat and he messaged me back at 9, if I didn't hear from him within an hour, I probably would have, like, made other plans or done something else. Yeah, and then if he messaged me at 9:30, I'd be like, sorry, I'm out. Sorry, I'm watching a movie with friends. Like,
Yeah.
I meant
Interesting.
like, I don't know.
Right.
I try to be pretty specific when I set these hypothetical calls with people. Like, if I was going to talk to a guy on a Saturday night, I would probably also want to do something. So I'd be like, oh, okay, Shabbat ends at 6. Like, I'm free until 8. Like, I could talk to you at some point before 8, but at 8, I'm going to go do something else. Like, I would set those parameters. Like, or during the week, if it's something hypothetical, it's like, okay, I can't really talk until like 7:30 or 8, but like I go to bed at 9:30.
Smart. That's a smart move. Just to limit, always keep, especially with somebody you really just don't know, just to limit the potential exposure to your time. Like if I would have said, okay, great, and let's aim for before 8 o'clock, that immediately, chops off a lot of opportunity. Once it gets to 8 o'clock, I know it's definitely not happening. Again, it didn't really matter at all because I was just working, but if in theory, that would have been a smart move. Thank you for the guidance.
Like if it's something that, like some guys will message and it's like, okay, can we speak at this time? And it's like, okay, if this is a scheduled thing, then yes, then I'm holding my night. If a guy's like, okay, can we have a video call at 7 o'clock? Okay, I'm holding my night. Maybe not a Saturday night, but like, let's say it was a Sunday night, I would hold that. I might schedule something at 8 o'clock because like, I don't know how long a call has to be. But if it's a Saturday night for sure and I want to talk on the early side but still do something, I would be like, yeah, I'm free like from whenever Shabbos ends until like 8-ish.
Smart move.
Yeah. Always like include specifics. That way you don't find yourself like holding the night. Because then it's like, okay, if she doesn't get back to you, then okay, you wasted from 6 to 8. What were you going to be doing anyways from 6 to 8? Like that's the time where I like maybe make myself something to eat, lay in my bed and watch TikTok, like answer all my messages, like get reacquainted with my phone after Shabbat. Like,
yeah,
I'm not in any rush to get anywhere.
Smart move. I would like to give myself the credit at least that if I didn't have if it wasn't going to be a work night for me anyway, then I would have at the least just had a qualifier for her, or at the least once 8 o'clock hit, just gone and did something else. Anyway, yeah. But yeah, okay. It's the story there. So I think I do have other stories potentially, time permitting. We'll see. But I also have some topics I think are going to be a while to get to. So I don't know if this is a good time to break. Okay.
Yeah, this will be a good time. So we're going to stop for a quick break to hear a word from our sponsors, and then we'll get into it when we come back. Sticky Situations is sponsored by Corona Crush. Are you tired of swiping on dating apps? Tired of guessing whether the cute guy or girl you keep seeing around is Jewish and or single? Then you need to run, not walk, to join Corona Crush. Corona Crush is a Jewish organization working to create Jewish couples always. Corona Crush has over 30 confirmed engagements, over 22,000 members from all over the world, and has set up over 50,000 speed dates. Join the Corona Crush Facebook group and post yourself, or have a friend post you, and see who reaches out. Fill out the survey to sign up for virtual speed dating events happening every other week. Corona Crush is 100% free and 100% Jewish. Worst case, you end up with some stories of your own. Best case, you find the love of your life. Try it out today. Here on Sticky Situations, we tend to focus on bad dating stories, but sometimes dates do go well and lead to proposals and weddings. Who would have thought? And what do all of those require, you might be asking? Well, the answer is flowers. Who doesn't want flowers from someone they've been seeing? Don't forget, flower petals and bouquets needed for proposals. And that's even before all the flowers that go into weddings. Sticky Situations is sponsored by Primrose Flower Shop. In my opinion, Primrose is the coolest flower shop around and has the best customer service to fulfill all of your floral needs. Primrose offers a range of services from your basic bouquets to subscription services where you can get flowers delivered once a week. They deliver all over the tri-state area, including Manhattan. Primrose does weddings, bar and bat mitzvahs, and other simchas. I've personally been to a wedding where Primrose did the flowers, and the work they did was beyond gorgeous. Primrose additionally offers in-store proposals, including a romantic setup with candles and music. Primrose is located at 2922 Avenue M in Brooklyn, and the phone number is 929-376-9815. You can also follow Primrose on Instagram at PrimroseNY. So, If you can't get someone out of your head, buy them some flowers from Primrose. They'll either love it or they'll find you really creepy. But regardless, the flowers will be out of this world. Okay, we're back. So before the break, Blair, you said that you had some topics that you wanted to discuss.
I do. Let's get
into
it. Okay, very quickly, this is not a dating topic, but as someone who also works in accounting, I feel like you have said some not so positive things about accounting in previous podcasts. I didn't go back to confirm it, but I feel like you have. So I'll just say for the record, accounting is a fantastic career with fun people.
It's a scam.
Recommended completely. I love this juxtaposition.
It's a scam.
It's a scam. I've never gotten that one before. I've heard
Corporate
everything.
America is a scam.
It's a scam.
They trick you. They trick you.
Yeah, the IRS is totally fake. Accountants just made it up to make money. It's a total scam.
Wait, so one of the you guys know how I got a new job recently. So one of the recruiters I was working with just texted me to check in, and I don't know, he's friends with my brother. So we have more of I want to say we have a personal relationship. We literally don't. I've never met this guy in person, but whatever. I feel like I could talk to him like I talk to everyone, in a non-professional sense. So he's like, oh, how's the new job going? And I'm like, the job is fine, but I hate being an accountant. And he's like, oh, you could always be a recruiter. And I'm like, no, I literally couldn't, because I would tell everyone how much accounting sucks and how much they shouldn't be an accountant.
You probably shouldn't be an accounting recruiter. I'll grant that.
Yeah,
you won't have an argument for me on that point.
Listen, some people enjoy accounting, some people don't. For me, it depends on the day. Some days I'm more negative than others.
Okay.
No, I mean, in general, I think I work with good people. It's a lot of hours for not important things. That's my take on accounting.
All right, I can kind of hear that. There's definitely more important, impactful work you could do.
No, meaning it's treated like it's life or death, but literally nobody's dying. So.
Yeah, ideally not.
Except for my soul.
Right. We try to limit it to souls.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So back on more in the dating realm. So I did notice on a lot of your episodes, I think as you alluded to in the beginning, you'll have guests on, and usually the female ones, you'll have some musher, which means critical advice for guys. And frankly, I agree with most of what you say about the guys being depicted on your episodes. And it saddens me how many schmucks and inconsiderate guys are out there who don't treat people well, and certainly won't treat girls well. But I think there's an important qualifier, which is oftentimes missing in your discussions, which is that we have to focus on these types of guys. And they're typically painted with a broad stroke. I've found that there are a lot of girls who are looking for attributes in guys which will make them more at risk of going out continuously with losers and have sucky experiences. Many girls are drawn to, for lack of better words, that macho guy who probably spill over the point from being confident, which is an important attribute, to the point of being full of themselves, which is an attribute not great for treating others right on dates or in life. Frankly, to me, those types of guys ooze schmuckiness, and they would repulse me. In terms of being friends with them, I don't know if they were in theory girls, I certainly wouldn't want to go out with them. So look, if girls want nicer experiences and nicer guys, here's my advice: they should adjust their radars to be cognizantly looking for and going out with people they know to be nicer and how they interact with others. If nice is not on the top of someone's radar, then you could end up with all sorts of stories for your next guest appearance on Sticky Situations.
So here's the problem.
Okay, what do you got for me?
I feel like I do look for guys who are nice. Number one priority for me when it comes to finding a guy is that he's a good person. I want a good person who's going to treat me nicely. For some reason, these guys claim to be good people, and they're just not. I'm not saying I've never gone out with a good guy, because I have. You guys have heard about my past relationships. They were good guys. I'm not saying that they weren't, and I've always spoken highly of them. And I have gone out with some other guys who are nice guys. I don't really talk about them because, that's boring. But I would say 80% of the guys that I interact with, I have negative interactions.
That's rough. And look, I guess thinking about it a little bit, like if it's via an app or someone setting you up or a different type of dating platform, which just for a lot of people, that's the vast majority of people they go out with. And yeah, it's tough to really know. Everyone's gonna say they're nice. I guess like if it's somebody like you've had an interaction with, even like you met them at like a dating event or they're around the same community that you're around, then I feel like that's more on you, which is that like look out for like the signs. How do they treat others? Are they welcoming to other people, or are they the people like, oh, I'm in a circle, oh my goodness, somebody like I'm in a circle like at Kiddush after like davening at Shul, when everyone's socializing, like they're in a circle, be like, oh my goodness, is somebody almost penetrating the circle? Let me move to the left, and if they get in somehow, let me certainly ignore them. Like there's signs. Most people are gonna say, yeah, I'm a good person, or I'm a nice person. I don't know. There's signs to look for. From what I could tell, maybe girls oftentimes say they're looking for nice people, what they find to be other overriding qualities, which are important qualities, are they're looking for people who are confident, people who have great careers and decisive, and I think those are all important qualities. And what I'll say is that just because somebody is, like a nice or good person doesn't mean that they don't have all of those things. I mean, I certainly know plenty of people who, in my opinion, have all of those things. So
set a girl up, man. What are you doing?
Maybe I will. I should. I wish I could do that more. It's a tough one. I don't know. That's a good.
If you know
point.
A nice guy who has
all
of those qualities,
all the qualities,
then I don't know. Set me up with them. Then maybe I'll have better stories.
Well,
See, he dug himself into a hole.
But then what about the podcast?
Oh, I can have other people tell their stories.
You've got to contribute yours. That's very important.
Honestly, I haven't been dating much lately, so I have no stories. I mean, I always have stories because it's me we're talking about. But
Yes.
like, I could not go on any dates for a year, and I would still have dating stories.
Okay, look, that's...
Now you're just trying to get out of it.
I'm not trying to get out of it. That's totally my approach that I think...
You're trying to get out of setting
you
me up with good guys.
I'm trying to get out of setting you up with good guys? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. I thought you were just trying to get out of my points. I don't know if I've ever successfully set up as much of a first date. Like, very rarely will I think of like two people and suggest them, which is not something I'm proud of or something
Why?
I think is
I can be
fine.
your guinea
I should
pig.
do it more.
I'll be your guinea pig.
You'll be my guinea pig? Yeah.
Listen, these
Thank
guys
you.
can't be worse than the guys I've already gone out with. Think about it that way.
Okay. Thank you. That's reassuring.
He backed himself into a corner.
I did back myself into a corner. Very clever tactic, Rachel. But look, I would say, long story short, is, I would say if people continuously find themselves in bad dating situations, just try to ultra focus on maybe some qualities they're not focusing on enough. Like if I'm looking at somebody's profile, okay, they say they're a good person, but do they get into specifics? So they're like, oh, and I like volunteering with this, or this is an important cause for me, or treating others well is important, or do they just say I'm a good person? I don't know. There's ways to tell. I don't know. If I was so good at telling it, I'd probably be married like 6 times over by now. So I don't know. Who am I to talk?
Hopefully only one.
That's true also.
I don't know.
Okay.
Like, yeah, I agree with you. It's just, I don't know. I guess that's why I stopped dating.
Well, that was not my goal. Okay, to stop dating, but at least I accomplished something.
Not actually stop, but like, I don't know. The guys aren't what I don't know.
Oh yeah, totally. A lot of guys really disappoint me. And
I'm disappointed by
it's too bad.
The male gender.
I'm disappointed by some of the male gender.
I'm disappointed.
I guess that's our difference.
Disappointed by most. If you are a member of the male gender and want to like change my mind.
There you go. Change.
I have the applications, but you have to fill them out.
It's great. I love it. I love every time you reference your application. It'll get me every time.
I have a real application.
I don't doubt it. Like, you better.
No. So I have an application. I have a real application if you want to be a guest on the podcast. I have a real application if you want to date a guest on the podcast. And then I have a separate application if you want to date me. I'm going to let you guess which is the most intense one.
I guess if they want to date you. If they want to date you.
The most extensive one.
That's great. That's funny.
Guys have actually filled it out. So
good. I feel like that's
it's
a good tactic.
Actually, probably a few that I have dated. I think I've because I have them on my dating app profiles. So guys that filled it out, I might have gone on a date or talked to them. They're all lies. They all lie. They say one thing on the application because it's a clear answer of what you're supposed to say, and then they don't do it. So
you're not going to get me off my opinion, but again, or you're not going to get me totally off my opinion, but I'm always open for discussion and to potentially rethinking things after discussing them with people. But yes, I've never dated guys, so I can't possibly compare it to that experience. Maybe it is that guys are more prone to being deceitful, and maybe I just surround myself with good people, so I think a stronger percentage of guys are, stronger qualities than they actually are.
I think a lot of the times it's not even guys being deceitful, it's guys wanting the challenge, not being able to do it, and not owning up to it.
What I feel like you're going to get with your application is, I really hate disparaging people, but you're probably just going to get some desperate people if people are filling out an application, because most people like to think highly of themselves, and people like to think that I'm not filling out an application.
Yeah, the application was more of a joke.
It is hysterical.
And then people did it, and I'm like, oh, this is funny.
Okay.
So, it's not like every guy who I get set up with or come message me on an app, I'm like, oh, you need to fill out my application. Sometimes they'll ask for the link because it's there, and I send it to them, and then they fill it out. But it's more of just funny.
Okay.
Actually, I don't think I've had anyone fill it out recently.
Okay. Maybe I'll get some people to fill it out just to boost your ego. For no other
I don't
reason.
need an ego boost from that. That doesn't boost my ego.
That doesn't boost it?
Then I see who fills it out, and I'm like, yeah.
Okay. But it momentarily boosts your ego. When you see it has been filled out.
It's like looking through my
the momentary
hinge
boost.
If you ever want to be humbled, look through your hinge lights. That's how I humble myself, everybody.
Wow, that's beautiful. Such
Yeah.
great, so modest, and wow, incredible. Okay, so here's my next stance where I very much disagree with you, and this is definitely the one. I have another one after this. This is definitely the one. I really don't believe I'm going to be changing your minds one iota. But I've got to come out with it.
What it is.
Yeah. So look, many of my female friends complain that with the setup in modern Orthodox dating, that they don't get enough quality guys suggested to them or asking them out. And I feel for them because of the way the setup typically is in modern Orthodox dating. And I don't know, maybe you want to explain in a minute what the setup is in modern Orthodox dating. But yeah, the setup is tilted towards guys getting more suggestions. But what I say to these girls is, if you're not getting enough ideas suggested to you or people asking you out, there's only one thing you could do, and that is to take the situation into your own hands and put yourself out there. If there's somebody you like, I would be an advocate of asking them out, but I would also be an advocate of the middle grounds, of finding a mutual friend and trying to get the mutual friend to set it up. And people might say this is deceitful, but I don't think it's a problem to have to ask the mutual friend to do it in a way that it wasn't coming from me. It's just an idea the mutual friend had. I'll say one quick anecdote is a friend of mine recently said that they were at a meal with me, and after the meal they spoke to a friend of theirs who was a girl, and as I do at the meal, I said something funny, as I do, and the girl was like to my friends, "Wow, I didn't realize Blair is funny. I'd like to go out with him." But the girl would absolutely not let my friend tell me who they were. So it's where's that going to get anybody?
That's stupid.
Is it? Because I feel like you might be of the opinion that girls should never make any move on guys.
No, I think I've said, personally, listen, I'm a feminist. Yeah, I want a guy to pay on the date, but like I'm a feminist. So I personally probably want to make a first move on a guy, like just approaching a guy and asking him out. But I definitely would do what you said after. Like if I see a guy, and I've done it before. Like I've met a guy, I like him, I vibe with him. It takes a lot. Like honestly, there aren't that many guys who like catch my eye where I'm just like, oh my God. Not saying that I'm not open to dating guys. It's just more like they have to be like really like, oh yeah, who is this guy? Like something has to stick out about them to me for me to be like, oh, I want this to happen. Honestly, there's really been like one guy in the recent past, like probably within the last year that I've thought that about. He didn't want to date me. Like I had a Shabbat meal with him. I thought he was like awesome. And like we vibed throughout the meal and I was like, okay, like there's a vibe going. And I had my friend like try to make it. I just literally at shul the next day, I go up to my friend. I'm like, yo, make this happen. I'm marrying him.
I've got a lot of respect for you.
Like, I'm marrying him. Make this happen.
Nice.
He didn't want to date me. Do I continue to be mildly obsessed with him? On and off. Yes. Have I come to the realization? Like, I've already, like, come to the terms with the fact that I'm not going to marry him. And, like, that's okay with me. It's fine. Out of all the guys rejecting me, he's, like, top tier to reject me. So I'm like, okay, whatever. But, I don't know. I think even if I saw a guy I was like mildly interested in, like, oh, like not that long ago in shul, like there was this guy who I'd never seen before, and I'm like, oh, he did something that like stuck out to me, and I'm like, oh, I literally have no idea who this guy is. I've never spoken to him. He has no idea who I am, but I'm like, I'm gonna find out, and like maybe you never know. So like I did ask a friend to ask about him. Turns out he was like dating someone, so nothing happened there, but like I don't know, I think if I see a guy who I'm like mildly interested in, I will ask a friend to ask. I just don't have so many of those situations because I think for me also, like, you could disagree, I feel like girls get rejected a lot by guys. Like I'm sure guys get rejected a lot by girls too, but in my own experiences, like I'm not gonna put in like all the efforts and like put all these ideas into my head about a guy who's just like gonna reject me.
Okay, so a couple of points. Number one is we were at a Shabbos dinner recently, and a different person was like very adamantly like a proponent of girls asking guys out who they're interested in, and I really feel like you disagreed with them. It could be how adamant they were. So that's why I'm surprised here, but I'm happy to hear it because I totally agree with you that that girls should take whatever initiative they can through a middle person, try to make things happen.
I think also my point to that person was,
okay,
for me, if, like I said, there aren't so many guys who just catch my eye and I'm like, oh my God, I need to marry them right now. Honestly, like that's happened like twice in my life. But no, but even like, oh my gosh, I'm really into this guy. I think he's really awesome. I think there's a difference between that and like, oh, this guy's cool. Like I would be open to going out with him. Like if it's somebody who I'm like open to going out with, like I might not necessarily pursue, but I would be open to going out with a lot of guys that I interact with. Whereas I think guys are less of that mindset. Like not all guys, I can't speak for all guys, but I think a lot of guys, they see what they want, they zero in on it, and that's what they want. If someone else suggests something else, like maybe they'll be like, oh, maybe, I never even thought about that. But a lot of the time it's like, no, a guy's thought about it. Like, I don't know, I feel like the world we live in, and the community that we live in, especially at like our age, like your 20s and your 30s, you meet members of the opposite gender, and like one of my first thoughts is like, oh, would I date them?
I think that's valid, and I agree with you that, and not to jump around segments, but your classic saying, it's iconic, is if he likes you, you'll know.
Yeah.
Right? And I agree with that, but I would also say it's like, what's the worst that could happen with this situation? You'll probably, particularly with guys who you'll probably won't have much interaction with in the future, so what's the worst that could happen? You're right, it probably will be a no, because there's a lot of people in the world, just on an objective level, and the vast majority of them I don't want to date, and I think most people have that same view. So, yeah, odds are that all things being equal, if you meet a random person, they won't want to date you, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think people should be on the selective side in who they date, or else they're not doing anybody any services. But I just say there's nothing to lose, and kind of take the reins into your own situation. It's not a great setup where girls oftentimes get less ideas than guys do. So do everything you possibly can to even the scales.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, like, I do believe in taking matters into your own hands sometimes. In certain ways. It's just like, I don't know.
Okay. I can't believe we found commonality there. Wasn't expecting it, but I guess we'll see what happens with the next one. So look, oftentimes also on your podcast, you will discuss how you believe that girls have very much so the worst end of it on the orthodox dating setup. Is that a fair description?
Yes.
I gotta make sure going in. I made
Yes.
assumptions last time and I got burnt.
Yes.
Okay. I generally agree with with a lot of the things you say. Personally, though, I see pros and cons to both the girls and the guys side of things. Look, the girls have it rough. That as I've been saying, they get less ideas, and oftentimes they feel like they just have to wait around for guys to hopefully ask them out, and that sucks. But I will point out some ways I think guys also have it tough. I'm not saying maybe guys have it tougher or girls have it tougher, but I think that both ways, that there are both multiple ways that both sides have it tough. Here's one. Guys always have to be the ones putting themselves out there, generally. So while guys will get more ideas, girls will actually, if you think about it, get more yeses. Because the girls will generally...
You just don't see the nose.
They don't see the nose, but
Unless you're like me and you see the matchmaker view of your Ryan Connects profile and you see every guy who's ever rejected you ever and why. I know, guys.
You know.
I know.
Jig is up. You thought you were safe. And now
You're
Rachel's
not.
coming for you.
I know.
No, but girls will get more yeses than guys will, because girls will get all the yeses of guys who are interested, and guys will only get yeses of people who are interested back. And again, because the majority of people in this world you don't want to date, I think girls will get a lot more yeses than guys will. So guys will get more ideas, and that's great and amazing, and I'm grateful for that. Girls will get more yeses. Guys will only get yeses if it's mutual, usually. Girls will usually get yeses and then have the option to reject or not reject. So I think that's a definitive advantage for girls. Great ego boost.
Yeah, no, it definitely is an advantage. Like, if I didn't see the matchmaker review of my profile, I wouldn't know what guys rejected me, which, like, is not... I mean, I can handle it, but I just think girls have it harder because I feel like, especially in the modern Orthodox dating world, I just feel like girls are scrutinized more. Like, everything, like, I don't know. I've talked to matchmakers, I've talked to girls who have talked to matchmakers, and, like, if a guy doesn't look perfect, if a guy doesn't have this or that, like, a matchmaker is not going to say, oh, you need to go do this and this and this. If you're a girl and you're not a size 2 and you're not blonde and you're not 22 years old, like, you're going to get scrutinized about something. Or everything. So, and a lot of the things you're being scrutinized about are, like, things that you can't really, like, it's not the choices that you make in life. Like, I didn't choose how old I am. I didn't choose how my body is built. I didn't choose certain things. Like, yeah, I chose my career. Like, yeah, if you want to scrutinize me about my personality and my career choices. But, like, that's why I think girls have it hard. And, like, not all girls have it hard. If you're 22 years old, you're blonde, you're average height, and you're a size 2, I'm sure you have it very easy in the dating world.
Okay.
I'm talking about, like, us, like, mid to late 20s, early 30s, normal girls who are not a size 2, who are not blonde, who are not just, like, your la-di-da average girl, like, your perfect little girl. That's who has it hard.
Look, I definitely can't disagree with you on that, because I am not a girl and not I don't know if I would fit which criteria or not criteria. I would never know because I'm not even a girl, so I can't even like begin to figure out what criteria there I would fit. So yeah, I think that's really a huge downside for girls, which I will concede with you on. Part of what you're hitting on is what is commonly called is the shidduch crisis in the Jewish worlds, which basically I think boils down to that there are not enough. I think it's not enough guys for all the girls. There's more girls available than guys available, and I think generally it's because guys will date younger and girls will date older. So if a guy is like in their late 20s, early 30s, mid 30s, late 30s, whatever it is, they'll have more options because they're always going down and going down several years than girls, which are only going up, and maybe they'll go down a year or two or three.
Well, my mom told me to date younger before they turn into losers, so I'm all about dating younger now.
Yes, I'm frantically looking to get dating before I inevitably turn into a loser with age. So I also think I'm going to be 30 my next birthday. Maybe I need to hurry up and before I hit that loser age, whatever it is.
I don't know what. No, I don't think it's an age. I just think it's like you're a loser. Like a guy just turns into a loser at a certain point.
Okay.
Like I don't know. But when she said it, it made sense, and I'm like, okay, where are the 25-year-olds at? 26 or no, 25 is still too young. But like 26, 27, like guys, come here, come.
If you're 25, 26, even 27, go fill out Rachel's
Go fill out my dating application.
This is
or don't. You could
what an
literally,
opportunity.
Honestly, you could just DM me. Like,
who wouldn't fill out an application for a job they know they have a leg up on for whatever reason? This is a fantastic opportunity. You have a leg up.
I'll even give you other qualifiers. If you have a job and you're modern Orthodox, okay. You have a leg up.
Wow. You're just giving it away.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Not actually. I do have high standards. But that will
Good,
get
you should.
That'll get your foot in the door.
Okay. Okay. What do I got next? Okay, so girls will always get the information after the date because the typical procedure is that after the date, the next morning or later that night, whatever it is, the guy will message the girl either saying, "I love to go out again," or "I don't see it," and then the girl will respond. So the girl will always know how the guy feels. But let's say the guy isn't interested in a second date. It's not like the girl's gonna say, "Oh, I would have been interested in a second date, but goodbye then." No, the girls will say, "Thanks for letting me know," or "I agree," no matter what it was. So the girls will always get more information for whatever that's worth. I like information. I'm an information type of guy. So I think that's a positive. Personally, I love it. It so rarely happens, but I love it when a girl messages me after a date that they don't feel it before I can message them.
Oh, I do it. I don't
that's
wait
fantastic.
for a guy. I literally, like, if I don't feel it with a guy, one time we left the bar. I had like a 15-minute walk home. I messaged him as I was walking through the door.
Okay.
Like normally, sometimes I'll wait till the next morning. But also on the other end, what you're saying, like if I have a nice time, I will say, like I'm not going to say, "Oh, I'd love to do this again," but I will say I had a really nice time. Thank you again. Like
that's general etiquette.
If I didn't have a nice time, I will tell him that I don't want to go out anymore. And if I did have a nice time, I mean, sometimes it's like a neutral, and then I'm like, okay, like, I could go either way, depending on what he wants to do. But, no, I think I've reached a point where I will end things. Like, I'll tell the guy if I don't want to go out again.
Oh, I think you're an enigma in that regards.
Really?
I think, in my experience, the vast majority of girls...
I feel like a lot of my girlfriends... I've helped them draft many a text.
No, but like after the guy though says I'm interested, or right away before the guy could say anything, because typical procedure is the guy says something and then
not necessarily.
Okay, that's great. I guess I'm dating the wrong or right girl. I don't know because I like never get that.
It depends
Maybe they're all
on the
interested.
girl. Like again, I'm tired of wasting my time. So if I really don't feel it with someone, first of all, he'll probably be able to tell on the date. Like. I've just grown very impatient.
I got an interesting counterpoint to that, but I'll let you continue.
Grown very impatient, and like, yeah, I'm trying to think the last like first date I went on where I ended things, and I literally can't. I don't think I've gone out in a while. I can think back to like the last guy I think I went out with in person, but it was not a very typical scenario, and it was different. But I've had like video calls with guys like recently, like pretty much like all the ones that I've had in like the past few months. where I'm just like, okay, like, I don't feel it, and I'll text them the next morning.
So you recently had, just to drive home my point, you recently had a girl on your podcast, or at least recent when we're recording. But you had a girl on your podcast, to drive home my point, who said that they will sometimes pretend to be having a good time on a date. And look, that's valid. I think that's less of an awkward thing to do if you're not having a good time, to pretend you are. But then, let's say you are that person. Why wait for the guy to message you after? Why don't you message them and just be like, hey, I don't see it? I once had a date with a girl a while back. I went for an hour or two. It was clearly not a fit. We both knew it. Literally no more than 2 minutes after the date ended, as I'm on my way home, walking home, she messages me that she doesn't think it's a fit and wish me well. I agree with that sentiment. That was probably a bit extreme of a timeline, but maybe, give it at least an hour or two to pretend you're thinking about it. That's what I was going to do. I was going to give it an hour or two, pretend I was thinking deeply about it, and, be courteous. But I'll tell you what, I really appreciated and mentally commended her for messaging me first. But you're saying it's more frequent than I might realize, so okay, maybe it is. And
I mean, at least, like, I know for me personally, if I really don't feel it with a guy, I will tell him.
That's great. I've had a guy tell me before, and I think this is a bit extreme, that if they're not interested in a girl after a date, they will specifically wait longer than usual to give the girl a chance to message them first. And I thought that was a bit extreme, but I guess that's another guy who's had similar, experiences where they're typically messaging after. Look, it's not the end of the world, but I think it's an advantage to more times than not be having the information of how the other person felt.
I don't know. I feel like 2 minutes after is like a little extreme.
Yeah.
I would rather
I liked it.
I would rather know right away. Like, honestly, because then you're just like let's say I did like a guy, or I would be open to going on another date with him, and he doesn't want to go out with me again. I would rather him just tell me than be waiting all day being like, oh my God, is he going to text me? Is he going to text me? Like, what's going on? Because sometimes, like, when you reach a certain point in the day and you don't hear from him, you know. Because if a guy's excited about you, if a guy likes you, you know. And if a guy's excited about you, he'll message you sooner. And if he's not excited and he wants to end it, then he'll, like, drag it out. And it's like, okay, just, like, tell me you don't want to go out.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Same thing for girls.
Yeah.
Like, no need to drag it out. Normalize, like, ending things, like, that night or, like, first thing the next morning.
I completely agree with that.
I'm into normalizing it.
I like normalizing it. Let's normalize it
Let's be
together.
honest with everybody.
This podcast is going to be a watershed moment. It's going to flip upside down the way dating works, modern orthodox wise. So look, I mean, that's what I had for you in terms of my dating conversation bits. I think we had a little more agreement than I was anticipating. So not to say we had overall agreement, heaven forbid. So it's, I don't know where you want to go at this point, what length you typically go, if you want me to tell more stories or you want to move to the close, up to you.
If you have one more story that's, like, not so long, then we could do one more story and then close.
Okay. Sure. This is, again, this is not strictly a date story, but it's a story about dating, which was an absurd situation. I was home in Chicago. I think it was this past Shavuos, and coming back to my house late in the afternoon. I was spending the day with my friends, and my mom says, "Hey, Blair, by the way, I talked to our neighbor, Mrs. Stein, made up name, and turns out she likes setting people up, and she's going to come over and ask you some questions about what you're looking for." I feel like a lot of people have been in this situation, or I don't know. It was just like, on the one hand, I guess my mom's heart was in the right place, so that's good. On the other hand, that is a super uncomfortable situation, and just to show how chill of a son I am, when Mrs. Stein did come over, we sat down in my living room, and just sure enough, my parents joined me, flanking me on both sides while Mrs. Stein asked me these dating questions. I was like, all right, whatever, I got nothing to hide. But that was just like, wow, that was next level, even for, like, like my parents who, they like to set me up or like to suggest ideas for me. Some people don't like ideas from their parents. I have no issues with ideas. I love ideas from my parents. I appreciate it. I mean, I'm not more likely to say no or yes. I'll evaluate the idea, but why should I not want ideas my parents may come across? What's the harm? But
No,
this was
I
extreme.
agree. No, I think it's weird. But I feel like I would feel uncomfortable. I feel like my dad would have a lot to say when I would say things. My mom would probably just be like, yeah, you tell her what you want, and my dad would just be like horrified. He's like, this is why you're single. But I give my parents full permission to, if they're gonna ask me about my dating life, then they have to like help the situation.
That's fair.
I don't normally talk to my parents about dating. I just don't want to get their hopes up. Yeah, I've only really told my mom about 2 guys ever. But yeah, if a guy becomes relevant, then I'll tell my parents.
Yeah, I have the same mindset because I don't want to get their hopes up. Not even that I would have
I don't want to get their hopes
issue
up.
with telling them. I don't know. Maybe that's not entirely true. I also don't want like a call every day. So what's the latest with Sarah or whatever name it is? What's the latest? I guess I also don't want that. So maybe it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I think my dad only knew about 1 guy. I don't know if my mom told him about the second one, but yeah. I don't know. Parents being involved is an interesting. Well, honestly, so we just passed Valentine's Day, and I was really disappointed because not only did I not have, for the 29th year in a row, did not have a Valentine, but usually my mom sends me a Valentine's Day package, and she didn't. And I texted her, I'm like, Mom, do you not love me anymore? And she thought something was wrong. And I'm like, you didn't send me a Valentine.
It. I love it. That's how you opened it. That's great.
So today or yesterday, she texted me. She's like, what would you want for Valentine's Day? I'm like, a boyfriend. But if you can't do that, send chocolate. She's like, I'm working on the boyfriend, but can definitely send you chocolate.
Look, in today's day and age, your request to be sent a boyfriend is more at the fingertips than ever.
Listen, if anybody wants to send me a boyfriend, I'm open to it.
When you
maybe
just send you a boyfriend, yeah.
Just waiting for him to show up at my door. Prince Charming, show up at my door. Just like come with flowers and candy.
By the time this podcast airs, it will only be a matter of time.
Hopefully.
What's it called? When you first started that story, I was like, "Oh my goodness, your parents probably listen to this podcast." And have you told them about this?
They're not allowed.
Oh, they're not allowed. They're not allowed. They know it, but they're not allowed.
They're allowed
What's
to listen.
Stop them.
They're allowed to listen to their own episodes. Oh, it's called boundaries. I have good, healthy boundaries with my parents. They do have episodes. I did record with each of them, and those episodes will come out eventually. My mom might want to re-record hers, so TBD. That's why I haven't released them yet. But yeah, they're allowed to listen to their own episodes. But out of respect for their daughter, who they love the most, even though they have a son too, but they still love me the most, they're not allowed to listen to the podcast.
I think that is. I guess you would probably know if they would listen. They would probably have slipped up by now if they have listened. They would tell you. So I think that's really impressive to have those types.
My mom would feel too guilty.
Boundaries. I wouldn't blame like parents for like not being able to help themselves if their kid had a podcast and listening, even if it was forbidden. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I have pretty cool parents.
So, like
guys, that's just another plug for dating me. My parents are awesome. Really cool future in-laws.
Yes.
But, okay. Blair, thank you so much for coming on the... Oh, wait, we have to do the our closer.
Yes.
Okay, so Blair, can you... what I ask all my guests, can you give Sticky Situation Nation one piece of dating advice? I know we've talked multiple pieces throughout the episode.
An additional piece.
One piece of dating advice, or like a summary of like
just a bullet point summary.
The most important point.
The most important point. Fortunately, I didn't know this was coming, so I held back a piece of dating advice, as hard as it was for me. So I guess I would say to those nice guys out there. One thing I see sometimes which is just not good is don't be bashful about your great attributes. Don't be hesitant to. Maybe risk sounding a little cocky and sell yourself. It doesn't even necessarily have to do with dating, but like in the job world or any world, you always want to sell yourself. Who's going to sell yourself if not yourself? You're definitely your best salesperson. So don't be hesitant to sell yourself and to talk about your attributes freely because you have great attributes, so it won't be difficult anyway.
That's good. Nice guys.
Thank you.
Speak highly of yourselves.
Yeah, don't hide.
And then the most awaited for
Yeah.
part, Blair. What is your Real Housewives tagline?
Yeah, so I've got to admit, when I heard your first several Real Housewives taglines, I still didn't quite understand what it meant. And I'm not sure if I still understand what it means. Hopefully I do. I will say my Real Housewives tagline is, if I'm 6 months pregnant, I will turn off my hinge. Does that work as a tagline? I feel like, okay, good.
You could use that.
I'll use it. Okay. It's being used. Good.
Okay, well, Blair, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a pleasure.
Thanks so much for having me. This was a blast. Your podcasts are awesome.
Of course. Thank you. And Sticky Situation Nation, I hope you enjoyed. And I hope, like, some of you other guys out there who are listening know that I'm not just a man hater. I mean, most of the time I am, just like not all men, but most men. But I'm always here to have a constructive conversation. But okay, Sticky Situation Nation, it's been real, and you'll catch me next time. Bye, everybody.